Toyota's smallest car in Australia, the Yaris, has seemingly come of age. There's a fresh new model in showrooms boasting hybrid power for the first time, new safety, new technology and equipment. Now prices have risen dramatically, so much so that you can't get a Yaris under $20,000 anymore. Even so, let's see how it measures up.
The city car segment hasn't traditionally been at the forefront of safety and technology, even though it is most common among younger and older drivers alike. Toyota is the latest to change its city car strategy, introducing a new 3-variant Yaris lineup that is between $7,000 and $9,000 more expensive than the predecessor. Based on Toyota's latest architecture, the 2020 Yaris is pretty much new from the wheels up, with a longer wheelbase and shorter overhangs. It introduces advanced safety features such as twin centre airbags between the front seats for head protection, a first for this class, along with autonomous emergency braking with pedestrian, cyclist and intersection detection, plus much more.
Take all of that into account with this flagship ZR hybrid and you're now looking at just over $32,000 before on-road costs. That's a $9,400 premium on the previous second generation flagship, and staggeringly it costs more than an entry hybrid Corolla, which is the next size up. With all of that said, you are getting a cabin that is decidedly more upmarket with a thoughtful layout, plenty of open cubbies and storage, Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, and some nice nifty features including a digital speedo. But even so, the execution is far from perfect.
Take a closer look around the cabin and there are some telltale omissions despite the new price point. There's no centre armrest up front, only one USB port and one 12-volt outlet across the cabin. And the switchgear isn't very well illuminated at night. On the outside, entry versions of the Yaris get drum rear brakes, and even the paint on the underside of the bonnet is pretty patchy at best. That's all well and good for a $15,000 city car, but when Toyota is asking $25,000 for an entry car in the traffic, questions should rightfully be asked.
Now the Yaris would want to deliver wholesale change from behind the wheel, and thankfully it does take a big step forward with polished on-road manners and a general air of refinement. The steering's light at low speeds, weighs up through the corners, and equally the body feels controlled over bumps and is surprisingly responsive to changes in direction, especially when you compare it against the old car. Equally, the cabin is now much better insulated from road noise and wind noise than before, and it feels a lot more planted out on the road thanks in part to its larger wheelbase. If I had any initial gripes about the Yaris, it's probably the lack of rear vision. When you go to look over your shoulder to reverse or check your blind spot, there's quite a considerable C-pillar now at play.
One of the key dynamic improvements comes from the engine bay, where buyers get the option of a 1.5 litre 3-cylinder engine with the choice of a 6-speed manual or CVT automatic. There's also the same 3-cylinder engine in hybrid form, mated to a 67 kilowatt, 120 Newton metre electric motor.
Now in regular form, the engine makes its power in a linear and really accessible fashion. And I've got to say, the 3-cylinder soundtrack is quite a nice departure from the thrashy 4-cylinder that used to reside under the bonnet. In hybrid form, I reckon the biggest compliment of this car is that the electric system works seamlessly and benignly in the background. Yes, you can hear the occasional whirring and bits and pieces from the drivetrain, but when the electric motor does eventually run out of puff, the transition to petrol power is really quite smooth. And once you're running on petrol power, the 3-pot engine is quite perky and delivers quite a nice power band right up through to its rev cutout. All told, we managed to achieve a real-world fuel average of 4 litres per 100 k's, which is nothing to sneeze at.
The new Yaris is certainly more convincing than ever, with relatively strong rear seat proportions and a 270 litre boot underslung by a space-saver spare tyre. And as with all Toyota models, it's now covered by a 5-year factory warranty.
There is no doubt the new Yaris takes a key step forward for Toyota in every measurable way. But the thing we can't get our heads around is the price. There are more compelling on-road performance at this money, even in the next segment up. So as good as it is, I'm just not sure how many people are going to be lining up at the Toyota dealership.